What's up, YouTube? I figured it was time to break down this rifle a little bit and talk about why this rifle is set up the way that it is. I have my God hand set up right here, so uh, with the rail candy that I have here, with my hand, I can operate 3 different functions of the rifle. I have a laser right here, I have a light right here, and the scope switch is going to sit right here. All of this is possible because of the spacer that I put in right here. This is where my palm sits. I make sure to have grip everywhere. And this works out really well. I haven't had an issue with this. There's no reason for me to break my grip on the rifle. I can control everything. And hopefully this works out very well with the scope switch. I think it will. I think it will because this scope in particular just has such smooth and easy control here that a scope switch should be fairly easy for me to operate with my thumb. And it will truly be a God hand setup because this hand will not need any reason to come off this rifle at all. So that's what I did here. We have some extra weight on this rifle because I don't have a suppressor on it right now. There's a bunch of weight that I can shed here to make this an easier shooting rifle. I haven't felt the need to do that yet. We're just going to leave her alone just the way that she is. Moving up here, I've already had people pretty much tell me that how far I mount my scope back tells them everything they need to know about me. So yay for that. Let's let's be real quick to judge people. Now, one of these people though asked me why am I mounting my scope so far back? And there's pros and cons to this. First and foremost, the further you mount your scope back, the further back you have to be, the further out your rifle has to come out, the more load-bearing weight that you are holding. So if I move this scope up, I can move in behind the scope and I can effectively hold this rifle closer to my body and have, less struggle with the weight that I'm holding. So I can totally see why some people would want to move their scope as far forward as possible. I get it. I totally get it. There's reasons though why I'm not doing it. The number one reason for me, besides having your face all the way up here and getting gas in the face and all of that, and this is where people comment. They're like, "Yo, you can't even get to your charging handle." I can get to my charging handle under here and I can charge it. I charge from the side. I typically just grab one of these sides, one of these ears, and I rack that way, so it's never been an issue for me. But pushing your scope forward means that your face is way up here. This is where gas is going to come out, so I don't have a suppressor on here right now, but pulling your face away from here at all makes a big difference when you do have gas shooting back at you. I do remember that from the limited suppressed shooting that I've managed to do. That's not the big reason for me. Honestly, the big reason for me, let's flip this bad boy over. The big reason for me is right about here, actually, where I have this piece of tape. Okay, let me just get around here. So it's something like this, right? Your bullet is going to go in here. The primer gets struck, and before there's actual recoil in the rifle, there's already a vibratory shock going through this entire rifle, just from the primer going off and then the primer lighting off the rest of the propellant. There's that shock. You can feel it in your hand, but the thing is, our hand grips are typically polymer and rubber, so you're already not feeling too much of that shock in your main support hand here. Your other hand is all the way down here on the rail somewhere, right? And a lot of setups nowadays, a lot of that vibration is going through some kind of polymer, some kind of rubber. By the time it gets down to your hand, yeah, you're going to feel it a little bit. You definitely feel the shock when you pull the trigger on your rifle. Well, your optic is sitting right here. it's sitting like already close to the danger zone, right? If I move this optic up here, it's literally sitting right above where this explosion is happening. And make no mistake, that's what it is. It's a small explosion happening here. So from here, that vibratory shock goes just right up the mount and right into your optic. That's the way that I'm looking at it. I worked for a long time at KUKA Robotics and at Acumen Global Technologies. All of the guys at the maintenance department will tell you vibration kills machines. So a lot of the things that you're strapping to a rifle is a small machine, right? So that's my whole thing. I would just like to keep my scopes alive as long as I can. Why feed all that vibration straight into them? At least make it travel a little bit to get there. I make scope ring bushings. So these scope rings, I don't know if you guys can see them, but there's a lip there. There's a tiny bit of lip there. I don't know if you could see it sticking out. What that is, where is this stuff? Scotch Super 88 3M. It's a really extra thick rubber tape, pretty much. So this is what I use, vinyl electric tape. It's thick. After it goes on there though, and you seed your scope in there and you tighten everything down, this crushes down to pretty much, it's paper thin. But this does help eat up any vibration that is going through the rifle up into the scope rings and then transferring through the scope rings to the actual optic itself. I also keep my rubber bands on there, right? So that is my main reason. That is my main reason for pulling all of this back here. Less gas in the face, you know, if you're gonna throw a suppressor on it, and less vibration to the actual scope. Yeah, that's where I'm at on this. Now, if anybody has any better reason to move this forward, let me know, but I've never had an issue with this. None of my scopes have ever been off just from me putting these bushings on them. You know, when I get mounting instructions that say like 18 inch-pounds or whatever, I'll just take it down to 17 because I'm adding a bushing in there. I'm taking up some of the tolerance space. So I go like 1 pound lighter, and I've never had an issue. I've never had one of these optics that have broken zero. Anytime I take these back to the range, they're spot on. So I haven't had an issue with it. I'm just going to keep doing what has been working well for me. And yeah, a lot of that is just trying to take vibration out of the equation. And again, this is a shock that goes through the rifle before you even feel any recoil, before the rifle starts getting smashed back into your shoulder or any of that. A lot of people think that's what recoil is all about. They don't realize that there's the whole vibratory part of the recoil that you are completely missing. And that is really what's going to do damage to, I mean, not only your scope, but like your flashlights, your lasers, all this stuff. I mean, there's a reason, there's my little green dot. There's a reason why I run these on every single rifle that I can. I need to know that these little Votatu boxes can actually hold up to not just the recoil, but all the vibration that comes from being stuck on a gun, right? So that's why I'm constantly running these things on all of my rifles just to see if I can get one of them to give out. So yeah, this is why I mount so far back on my rail. This iron sight back here, this is just getting in the way. Like, this doesn't even need to be here. Obviously, this was not the final build on this rifle. I just slapped this stuff on to make sure everything fit right and was like, all right, let's take it to the range. But I'm burning up burning up weight back here for no reason. Like, I can just take this thing out. The front the front iron sight works with my scope, surprisingly. I would leave this one on here. This is something that kind of surprised me as well, because I did think about just taking both of these irons off. I will say this though, when this scope is on, 1x magnification, when I get on this scope, seeing this front post here through the scope helps me center my head behind the actual scope, and that way I'm not shifted off center. And from there, I can start aiming and zooming in, knowing that my head is in the right position. I'm looking straight down the center of the scope. I'm not looking off to the right or to the left of it. And when I start to zoom in, it works. Like this front sight does not get in the way. It does not obstruct anything. So that's going to be one of the things that I miss is when I put the scope switch on this, it's going to sit a little bit higher. It's not going to co-witness with my front sight here. And I think I actually am going to miss that. Now this back one I could do without. I could take this thing out. It's not doing anything here, just kind of wasting space. And if anything bad ever happened to the scope, it's not like I'd be able to just tear this thing off and use my irons, because this does not have a quick detach on it. So it's kind of one of these things where I could take some weight off this rifle if I really wanted to, but I think she's weighted great. I haven't had an issue with her. We're going to get this anti-matter scope switch out and about. I've been feeling under the weather. I'm still recovering from a little bit of the flu or whatever the hell it was, and like I'm right there. I'm almost there. We will get the scope switch out here, and I cannot wait to get her out in the range and really test the God Hand setup, because this is just too good. Like, not having to break your left hand for anything. It's always on the rifle. It's always doing something. I think that goes a long way, especially with a scope switch. My hand doesn't have to come off the rifle now to adjust anything. That means I'm gonna be doing a lot more zooming than I normally would, and that just means that you have better target identification. You get to actually use your scope more, right? I think that's a game changer, yo. That adds more value to any scope that you have, is being able to actually use your scope on the fly, without having to take your hand off the rifle. I mean, with my other rifles that have a bipod, right, I pull the bipod out, set the rifle up, and then, I'm free to use my left hand to aim and adjust, zoom in, really look at the target. But being able to do something like that on the go, like while you're even moving around, that's a game changer. So high hopes with the antimatter scope switch here. Really high hopes. I think I can get a lot out of this thing. And when it's all said and done, if this works out properly, this might be one of the best scope switch and optic combos that you can get. This thing is smooth. You need a smooth throw lever to work well with the scope switch, at least the older version of the scope switch. I don't know about the new one that's all electronic and has little motors. But this might be the most affordable way to get into a scope switch, because I do believe a scope switch plus this optic is around $500-600. That's not the cheapest thing in the world, but hey, that's a lot better than spending $2,000 on a scope and then another $500 on the switch. So $600 versus $2,500, that's a world of a difference to me. Anyway, this is why I mount my optic where I do. Leave me a comment, let me know if I'm dead ass wrong, and maybe I will make a video showing how I actually make my scope ring bushings. Anyway, have an awesome day, everybody. Later.